Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two American blended whiskeys, and they're both 80 proof. This one is called Banker's Club, and it was introduced in 1969. This is a big jug plastic bottle. I wasn't able to find the glass bottle, which they show on the website. Of course, 40% are bottled in New Jersey by Laird Company. They bought Banker's Club from a company called Kasser of Philadelphia, but Kasser is part of Laird today, and all their operations are in New Jersey. Got moved out of Philadelphia. So introduced in 1969, age 3 years. Straight whiskeys in here, age 3 years. It's a 5-1, 4-to-1 blend ratio. I got to correct that. 4-to-1. 4 parts grain neutral spirits and 1 part straight bourbon. I would assume bourbon, but it could be something else, but it seems like it probably is bourbon. Straight whiskey of some sort. 4-to-1. 80% grain neutral spirits. All right, 20% straight whiskey. All right, here is the competitor. Well-made American blended whiskey, introduced in 2017, 79% grain neutral spirits. So it's got a little bit higher percentage of straight whiskey, 21%. Not much higher, 1% higher, but it is higher. All right. It's a Diageo brand, and there's no website listing, so sorry, but you can't look it up and read about it because there's nothing available. Just some news reports about it from, years ago when they brought it out. American blended whiskey, all right, is allowed to have up to 80% grain neutral spirits, which is unaged grain distillate. They just ferment it, distill it, and blend it. In Europe or Canada, all the parts of the blend have to be aged at least 3 years, but that's their law. That's not our law. Now, yesterday at Fandango Friday, now you can see that the Banker's Club's a little lighter. Yesterday on Fandango Friday, William Kepley brought white, the white foundation liquor from George Dickel, which is a blend of corn, rye, and malted barley, but it's all unaged. So it would be, grain neutral spirits, essentially. Doesn't go in a barrel because then it wouldn't be the white lightning anymore. You know what I mean? The white stuff. All right, clear. Okay, and they sell that. People buy it. It's won awards. So it's not the same as vodka, but there's a lot of similarities with it. Okay, Craig Swinton says, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday morning to you, Craig. I say it's dawn busters, but it's still dark here. I know it's dawn where you are. With this daylight savings time, you know how it is with that. Now, American blended whiskey is allowed to have flavoring added, and it's allowed to have coloring added. That doesn't mean it has it. I said it's allowed to have it, and they don't have to disclose it. So you never know. You'd always have to guess. Now, in Scotland, Ireland, Canada, they're also allowed to add coloring to make it look a little more caramel tan color. They don't have to disclose that. Now, also in Canada, they're allowed to add flavoring to their blended whiskeys. Ireland and Scotland, I don't believe so. I've never read anything saying that that's allowed, so we assume they're not allowed to do it. If you want to add grain neutral spirits, that's fine. That's not an issue, but you got to put it on the bottle, the percentage of it. And this one says 80 and this one says 79, okay? So long as you put that on the bottle, the label somewhere, then it's cool. Age statement. Now, you don't have to put that, but if you don't put an age statement, that means the whiskey in there has to be aged at least 4 years. So this one has no age statement. So we know that the whiskey here is aged 4 years or more. Here it's 3. So we got an older thing here, older aged. And it's a higher percentage of straight whiskey. Price point is probably about the same. I paid $9 for the well-made for a liter. Now they had that on a discount. It's not a common product around here. I haven't seen it in whiskey out, liquor outlets around here. Bankers Club is not exactly common, but I did find it at Total Wine and More, and they'll carry it from time to time. Just depending if they want to carry it. If you look at the lineup here, it's a whole line of liquor. Obviously, they took these photos at the Laird Company headquarters. You can see kind of a background of a room reflecting. But there's the bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. So I don't know who provides that liquor for them because they don't have a distillery in Kentucky. But there's the brandy, which I thought was pretty nice. Got to admit, was only able to find the big plastic bottle. There's blended whiskey today. There's a gin, vodka, blended Scotch whiskey. Don't know who's making that for them. And then there's a silver and a gold rum. I do believe that Total Wine around here will have all of these. I've seen the straight bourbon actually over in the glass bottle, but I'm so backlogged on bourbon that to buy it. I got 23 unopened bottles. So there's your lineup. Can't show you a website for the well-made because there is none. So we can put the lamps on now. Start checking it out. Focus. All right. This camera gets a little funny. I mean, funny like difficult, not funny like comedic. Corn. American blended whiskeys be very corn, much like bourbon, but without the charred oak because they're typically not aged in charred oak. They're usually aged in used barrels, like leftover bourbon barrels that were used to make bourbon. Fine. Now you're economizing, you're not wasting barrels. And they can use those barrels year after year after year. Or sometimes they'll auction them off to Canada or Scotland or Ireland for aging over there. All right. So it tastes fine. Little vanilla, little honeysuckle nectar and that kind of thing. So it's similar to bourbon, but without the char. Some people may prefer that because some people don't like the char. But yeah, it's fine. It's bland. I mean, they're usually kind of bland. I think when people are looking for exciting flavors, they're not reaching for American blended whiskey. Let's be frank about that. Some of them are pricey. I mean, this one's a little blander, so it's like corn and even more corn, corn starch, I guess you call it. All right. Now they got TX. I've seen TX. You see that around. It's owned by it got bought out by some bigger company. Nothing unusual there. They have a distillery over there, and guess what? Texas, TX. They've got different ratio blends from them. One is just standard like 80-20 blend, 80-20, 4-1, 80% grain neutral spirits. One is 100% all aged whiskey like corn, rye, wheat, or corn, rye, and barley. I don't remember. But those are like $40 for the cheap one and like $60 for the expensive one. So I haven't been encouraged to buy them. Also, there's another company, I think near Dallas. I could be wrong, but I think it's close to Dallas, called Rebecca Creek. And they do the same thing, a lot of blended whiskeys. But they're pricey too. And one of them was a spirit whiskey. Wasn't even a true American blended whiskey because it was over 80% grain neutral spirits. It was like 95, no, I think it was 81% grain neutral spirits and 19% straight whiskey. But it's still a class of whiskey. It's just called spirit whiskey, which is what they use to make Southern Comfort, by the way. Medium body, crisp finish. Same. Honestly, with these two, they're both from old distilling companies. Well, Diageo is not really a distilling company. They're an umbrella company. They own many distilleries, like a bunch of single malt distilleries in Scotland, like Colilla. And I think Cragganmore is another one. They own the Crown Royal Distillery in Canada, Manitoba, Canada, and some other places around the world. Laird does have a distillery, but the only thing they really distill is the Applejack, the apple brandy. The rest of the stuff, they just blend it and bottle it there. Blend it, bottle, age it there. Well, I'm sure it's a very interesting place to visit. Their website has directions on how to get there and so forth. Okay. But honestly, I would just go with price here. And that's not even an issue because I think they're the same price. So if you find a liter of this or a liter of that or a handle of this or a handle of that, you're going to probably notice that it would be $1 or $2 different if there's any difference. Maybe identical as far as price point. The flavor is virtually identical. This one, like I said, has a little more cornstarch, seems to have it. This one less. But you're not really gaining or losing anything either way. So that's nothing unusual to have 20 different brands of a type of liquor and they all taste virtually identical. That's the market. You know, it's like beer, same thing. You got this IPA, that IPA, this IPA, that IPA, goes on and on. It's just IPA. You taste them and it's like there's subtle differences maybe sometimes, but it's like, it's mind-boggling because it'd be so close you just can't properly differentiate them. Not really, not in a meaningful way, you know. And you could almost say, well, what's the point of making the videos? You know, you make these video reviews and it's like a repetitive thing because they're so similar. And that's a good point. It's just fun to do it, but I could see that it would be redundant after a while. And I can't help that because there's only so many ways you can do it. And that's why they started adding all the flavorings, chocolate, you know, nutmeg, espresso coffee, because they're trying to differentiate the flooded market. All right, so I'm going to say this is the well-made, because it might, and that's questionable, might have a little bit more going for it. And no, it's the Bankers Club. So that puts me with 2 losses now. No shock. And I'm not going to make excuses, but I think it's going to be tough going through all of these because well-made is fine, but it's not really different, essentially. So, yeah, got 2 losses now. I think 3 wins. I have to check my records. But if I finished with just a bare minimum winning record, you know, if I get 1 more win than a loss, I'll be happy on this because, like I say, it's tough as nails. All right. Well, thank you. So sorry, but that's the nature of the products. And I'm going to end this by saying, stay tuned for tomorrow morning. I plan to do another well-made versus the next one in the line, which I have a lot of them in the line. So it's going to take a little while. All right. Bye-bye, y'all. Take care.